The asset description form, as the name implies, this form stores the variables that describe the asset. The data can be populated by history import from one of the commercial vendors such as IHS or Drilling Info, or even a spreadsheet. The commercial imports are identified as the source and the retrieval codes of the vendor that was used. Descriptions such as state, county, operator, field, these are defaulted in the base form that's associated with the software. However, this form is totally user definable. Going through the form builder, you can modify, delete, add items into this list. In addition to the descriptive values, we have a comment box included for the user to make relevant notes if needed. And also at the bottom of the form, a footnote input that anything you type into this box will show up as a footnote on the economic output report. The asset options form contains data and variables that define the entire project. This data is usually entered at the parent level to inherit to each asset. The data that is bolded is required information, such as the data start and end date, that define the number of input time frames for the evaluation. The discount date shows up also as the as of date on the report. This is the date that all dollars are discounted back to. The discount rate is the value that shows up on the discounted cash flow column in the report. In the discounting method, the user has 4 options for the type of discounting calculations desired. On the right-hand side is the input for the type of analysis model to use. Mostly this would be the US model. For assimilating the data, the roll-up model is selected. The negative cash flow cutoff is the no-loss option. The user has 2 options of cash flow streams to use for the calculations. The BTAX cash flow stream, which takes capital into account, or the operations cash flow stream that only monitors the input and expense streams. Some of the advanced features of the asset options form include the analysis date. This can be used to set the actual date the user wants the analysis to begin if the decline curves start at some earlier date. The escalation start date is a global setting that would start all scheduled escalations at the same date. On the right-hand side, below the model calls, are some on-off triggers for additional calculations. For example, corporate reporting calculations, after federal tax calculations, the roll-up capability for the history streams, so you can create a total production report, or the normalized history is used to create type curves. The weight factor can be used as a probability of success calculator or as a production wedge tool. The incremental model call triggers the incremental calculations if an incremental asset or assets has been created. The cutoff GWI and NRI inputs allows the user to enter an ownership that will be used in the no-loss calculations other than the inputs in the ownership form. An example would be a royalty interest evaluation. The operator's interest can be entered here so that the royalty asset will cut off at the no-loss point. The max life option gives the capability of setting a date that will stop the evaluation no matter how long the decline curves last. This is an override here for the equivalent barrel factor. Default in the program is 6, and the user can input his own. Zeroing the report streams allows the user to add 2 positions in the same asset that must be kept as separate assets. without doubling the gross production streams. An example would be a working interest position and a royalty position in the same well. This allows a total position for that owner when the two units are added up without doubling the reserves. The risk factors are a global risk for three input streams: the production, costs, and capital. Now this is all production, all cost, and all capital. On the left, the user has set up a global pricing scenario using the premise files, and these calls are made here. The premise family, the premise level if they have multiple levels, and individual streams. The escalation, these are global escalations, can be set here. This would be used in lieu of setting escalations on individual assets or individual streams.